Good morning, good morning, good morning. Wherever listening, watching from around the world and the Eastern Caribbean. It's holiday in Jamaica, but I don't take a holiday because the fact of the matter is the people's business must go on. This morning, we have with us Wilfred Rattigan, retired supervisor special agent of the FBI and attorney at law. We're going to have pretty much Mr. Robert Smith to come on with us also to speak about the recent drug bust of the Jamaica Defense Force and what happened today, the arrest of cocaine that they find at Ian Fleming's International Airport. We only heard Cannon Pong. We don't hear nothing else about it. So this morning we're going to speak about it, because the fact of the matter is the people of our country need to know what is going on. So we're going to speak about that. Boy, we have some show lined up for 2023, is it? It's only God know the shows that we have lined up to dig deeper, to see if we can solve Jamaica's crime pandemic. Because obviously, the Prime Minister and the Minister of National Insecurity and Injustice don't want to solve Jamaica's crime pandemic. So we decide that we are going to go deep and search around the globe to get people in high position, in security position around the globe to come on to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Because obviously, they don't want to get a Wilfred Rattigan, a Herb Nelson Jr., and other Jamaicans who are overseas who can assist in solving the crime pandemic that we face in Jamaica. So what we intend to do, what the Make We Talk program intend to do with my good friend Wilfred Rattigan, is to get people come on to the Make We Talk program, this Regional Rattigan program also, and possibility the Fireman program. But this morning, we're going to speak about the recent drug bust at by the JDF. Because me still have to ask question, what happened to the cocaine they find in St. Mary? I hear nothing more about it. So we need to find out what is going on. Without further ado, I have Wilfred Rattigan. So Rattigan, good morning to you and welcome to Make We Talk. Unmute your mic for me, sir.
Yes, good morning, my brother, the defender, the people's defender, and a pleasant morning as well to your listening and viewing audience.
This morning, Wilfred Rattigan, we're going to speak about the recent cocaine bust that they have in Jamaica. I know we don't have enough information on it, but Jamaica don't produce cocaine. They find cocaine at the Ian Fleming's International Airport some time ago. We also coming on security expert, Sir Robert Smith. Sir Smith, welcome to Make We Talk, sir.
How are you, sir?
I am doing well, you know. Apart from in the land of wood and there is no water and there's crime taking over. How you doing, sir? How you on the festive season? I have Wilfred Rattigan on with us.
Festive. I don't know if I'd call it festive.
No, what would you call it?
Interestingly restive.
Oh, Lord. Well, you know, Sir Smith, this we're gonna talk about the recent drug bust that they have by the JDF. Tell me something, Sir Smith. You know, let us start with Wilfred Rattigan because I know we'll have to jump to go somewhere. Sir Rattigan, what is your views on what is going on? I mean, we don't have enough information about it as such. But Jamaica don't produce cocaine, so how the hell cocaine is in support? You're live on YouTube and Facebook, you know, Sir Smith. So I don't know. I don't know if one of the young ladies to see all those hairs, you know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yes.
All right. Well,
ahead.
first of all, let me extend a warm welcome and a very good morning to my brother, Sir Finzi-Smith. Always a pleasure to have him on our program, because not only do I try to give out information, but whenever he's on, I actually learn from him. This is the first time I'm telling him this, but he's a one-of-a-kind guest. You know what I mean? I like his style. He brings a lot of depth to any program that he's on. And so I'm very, very happy to be on the program with him this morning. Now, regarding the cocaine bust, first of all, look, let's give the government credit. They made the seizure, right? And that's in line with their Plan Secure Jamaica priorities, where they say they're going to protect the border, and the military, they have a duty to do drug interdiction at sea. So first of all, I want to give them credit for doing this. I hope that with the investigation, they'll be able to get to the bottom of this, and it won't be like so many investigations we've seen in the past, where, you know, the drugs are seized and people are arrested, and then all of a sudden you don't hear anything more about it. The file is lost, whatever, and then people are freed, and we don't even know what happened to the evidence. We've seen too many instances of that. So I hope that in this case, it won't be like that. What's interesting also is that and you mentioned it, the drugs seized at the Ian Fleming Airport, we haven't heard much. Not that the government has to come out and give us every detail about the investigation, but a seizure of this kind, a seizure of this magnitude, considering that Jamaica doesn't produce cocaine, this is something that the public should have gotten more information about. I mean, without revealing methods and sources and all of that, they could have done that. Also, I'd like to say that the Prime Minister, when he recently came to Washington, he mentioned that the US has a war on drugs, and that Jamaica was an integral part of fighting that battle. And now we're seeing it. So, give credit where credit is due. I hope they do enough of these so that Jamaica will no longer be a transshipment point. People will avoid it. The drug smugglers, they'll avoid it. But if you ask me to forecast what's going to happen, I don't think that's going to be the case, because given the fact that we have 150 illegal points of entry, and we still have corrupt public servants, and there is money to be made in this trade, this will continue. But again, give credit where credit is due, and I just wish them continued success.
So, Finzi-Smith, you're there?
Come on.
Do you have any, should I say, information, or do you hear anything more about that drug seizure, sir?
No. It's interesting. It popped up. It was announced. It was broadcast. But in terms of any further information, it's been a little quiet, which leads me to believe that it wasn't a perchance interception, that it could very well have been worked on the basis of intelligence. As such, I am not surprised you haven't heard any more. I keep telling people, knowledge is power. Knowledge people don't know you have is absolute power. So I'm hoping we're not going to try and make this be a public relations matter, and either spew out too much or leave us to feel that we're finally doing something only to flatter to deceive.
Okay.
I would like to see if there is a connection between the find at the Ian Fleming and the recent interdiction at sea. I would like to find out if somebody has the chemical acumen to determine if the batch at Ian Fleming matches chemically the batch at sea. So if they're coming from the same provider, that type of process would give me great comfort in seeing that at least we are trying to find out where everything is rather than stumbling around in the dark.
Mm.
You know, let me just add a little piece there,
Go
Jeffrey,
ahead.
to what my brother just said. It's likely that this interdiction is as a result of intelligence. It's also likely that it could be just regular routine patrol. But be that as it may, I agree with him that, you know, we need to give this time to flesh out, because you don't want this to be a PR thing. You're hoping it's not a PR thing. And also, you're not hoping that it's one of those things where they send out 10 shipments and they give you one, and then they have 9 of them they go through. So, and also, what I'd like to see as well is to see if there's any intelligence connecting the aircraft that crash landed off a Rocky Point to the cocaine seized at Ian Fleming, to see if there's a connection there as well. So there are 2 connections I think we should be looking at: the Rocky Point crash landing to the Ian Fleming find, and the interdiction at sea yesterday to the Ian Fleming find. One of them is to see if the Ian Fleming find came in on that crash landed aircraft. And the other one, as my brother mentioned, is to see whether or not the cocaine came from the same source. And I can tell you this, and I'm open to being fully corrected, but I think that the American hand is here as well. I think the DEA is on top of this. And I think they will try and make that connection to see whether or not it's the same source. But it sounds to me like there's a possibility that this could be source information that caused this interdiction.
Okay, so what you're saying... Go ahead.
The other thing that gives me pause is that plane from Rocky Point took off from somewhere in Mexico. Now, to get up in Mexican airspace, most, well-run airspaces, you would have to file a flight plan. Whether or not the flight plan was erroneous or not, you would have had to file one. You'd also have to identify who is filing the flight plan, which means that somewhere along the way, you know who the pilot was. Has this pilot flown any other planes since then? That type of thought process, I'd like to know.
Yeah, and you know what, brother Finzi-Smith, another thing too is that, and I picked this up from my DEA colleagues, one of the things that I learned from them was that if you see a plane, like, you're absolutely correct. If the flight is legal and above board and there's nothing nefarious about it, then a flight plan should be filed, and the contents and the passengers, they should be identified. Now, what I learned is that if it's a drug flight, then they take out all the electronics so that there's no communication, and no flight plan is filed, and so they just fly. And and what's interesting is that, based on what I heard about that flight, that flight that crash landed off Rocky Point, is that seats were removed. I mean, when people looked at the plane itself, they said some of the seats were gone, and nobody has heard anything about the transponder, the black box, and that's necessary when you're flying, and no report about that at all, zero. So if that was removed, if that wasn't on the flight, it tells me that flight, even though it's funny because the Fitz Bailey, I think what's his position, Assistant Commissioner of Police, he said that that flight wasn't destined for Jamaica. And the police commissioner came out and kind of confirmed that as well and said, well, there's nothing nefarious about it. Well, shoot, if you can't find the black box, that's a clue that
I go better than that. If you know it wasn't destined for Jamaica, it indicates that you know where it was destined for. If you know where it was destined for, then it filed a flight plan.
And then also, where was civil aviation, military aviation, all the people responsible for protecting Jamaica airspace, including the gentleman at Southcom. Where were those folks?
But I go one better, if I may.
Please.
Do you realize in what little background checks I have done, that plane was decommissioned?
Which you're right. No. See, the plane was decommissioned and it crash landed off of Jamaica. And all they can tell you is that, oh, it wasn't destined for Jamaica. Well, like you said,
you wasn't even supposed to have been in the air.
Exactly. So some serious questions, and we haven't heard anything. No, my sources are telling me something completely different from the official government report. Something completely different and something completely concerning about the passengers. People saw them, about the people on board that aircraft, and about the contents on that aircraft. And I'm sure if I'm getting it from where I am, I'm sure you've gotten some information as well.
Yes. But I'm telling you this much. If a truck carrying goods crashes in the dead of the night, by the time you get any first responders there, they strip it like a bunch of piranhas. If anything is left, them didn't want it or couldn't carry it.
Right.
It takes nothing for people to remove what was in. Somebody was expecting that plane, in my humble opinion.
Atio, that's what my
so
sources are telling me.
So the vehicles or boats that were going to accept collected what it was bringing and move it, including the pilots.
My sources are telling me that that's exactly what happened. That plane, it was an expected crash landing because there were people waiting for that plane to crash land. And as soon as it crash landed, the plan went into effect. And the passengers...
I will tell you one better than that.
Give it to me.
Anybody who is a student of geography or even knows the little island, do you know as the crow flies how far away Vernon Field is from that point? The type of pilot that was able to bring that plane in the manner in which it did, straight up against the beach, without any explosion, nothing, means two things. One, they ditched the fuel that would have allowed them to explode if they had a problem.
Right.
Two, an excellent pilot to do that. Now let's go to the third one. If you're that good, you could have made Vernon.
Right. Right.
So you chose not to make Vernon.
You don't want to go inland, man. No need to go inland.
So that means Sir Finzi-Smith and Wilfred Rattigan. That means that the drugs were dropped off somewhere out to sea.
No, don't even go there. You see, if I were a lawyer giving cross-examination to you, I would immediately jump up and say, Your Honor, we have no evidence of drugs. It is better to say the alleged contents.
Yeah.
We don't know what was in it. Everybody thinking drugs. Has it occurred to anyone it could have been weapons?
Our money.
Our money? And if
No.
I want to deliver something like that, I use a decommissioned plane, which is like a car. After a while, the car ceases to have a value. The depreciation takes it beyond zero. I put it to you, the same thing happened with this plane. I need something to drop down at Jamaica, and I need to do it in such a fashion. You can get me a plane that the loss of it won't trouble us.
Yeah, that plane, it had outlived its usefulness. And that was the last flight for that plane. That was the last flight.
I don't even know if it had, I don't think it had an airworthy certificate. Do not think it had an airworthy certificate.
No, gentlemen, what the JDF did yesterday of 2,000 pounds of cocaine, value at 1.1 billion Jamaican dollars. What they did yesterday to go ahead.
The thing is this.
Go ahead.
When people say 1 billion Jamaican dollars, to understand the true value of that, value it in the currency to which it makes sense, which is US. And where it is now, are you talking about street value or raw value?
This is street value.
Street value.
Yes.
Therefore, work out what the US is, because that, with no disrespect to my country, land of my birth, $1 billion Jamaican dollars on a whole heap of money. Break it down into US and you'll see what the true spendability of those funds are. Why I'm saying that? You must now work out how much people have to get paid out of that.
Right. And then also that value, you need to find out if that's the value, if that's a street value in Jamaica. Because if that's a street value in Jamaica, it's much higher in the US.
Yes. Also, remember that anyone who has done any business in terms of attempting to apprehend or dealing in coke knows that who that is destined for is where the true value of that comes in. If I have a product in terms of its purity, it increases the amount of time I can cut it, which increases the value exponentially.
Right.
If I think the terminology them use is step on it. If I can step on it 2 times, it's twice the value. If I can step on it 10 times, wow. And Mr. Rattigan, you can tell me if I'm antiquated in my estimates, but I was once told that the profit margin in drugs is 3,000%.
It's in that region. From you mean from the source to the end?
Yes.
Yes.
The end, yeah, 3,000%.
Yeah.
Which
because
is why
you're right.
I could put on a big stage show. Don't make as much money as your accountant would love me to make and declare a success because it has just gone through the spin cycle.
Right. Yes.
But gentlemen, when you look on what is going on, Finzi-Smith and Wilfred Rattigan, would you say that the Jamaican law enforcement is having a grip on the seizure of drugs?
What kind of grip you talking about? The one you used to use and come from St. Mary?
No, man, that Dulcimina. That's the Dulcimina.
No. And that you're talking about?
No, I'm not talking about that grip. I'm talking about actually the hands-on and the whole drugs flowing into Jamaica.
Let me be very clear. I have the utmost respect for officers in the Jamaica Constabulary Force who have fought an uphill battle for decades. Now, it comes back to what happened in the Vietnam War. America had all the equipment, all the arms, all the technology, and it was concentrated on people that it had to defend against outside of what is known in the infantry as the FEBA, which is the point outside your furthest point, your forward potential. So you're looking for people trying to penetrate your FEBA. All your firepower is aimed at that. Unfortunately, all Vietnamese looked alike. So you sometimes didn't realize that your greatest enemy was within the FEBA. What do I mean? Constabulary Force has had to fight an uphill battle against people within its ranks. Not a great deal of them, but enough to create a problem in terms of leaking intelligence, botching raids. I know of one senior police officer no longer in the force of great renown, whose talent used to be, the drawstring bag them, Just walk around to the teams and say, drop your phone in there, drop your phone in there, drop your phone in there. And then give them a completely different direction as to where we are actually going.
Yes.
This had to be done because there were people who grew up in areas with the people that I'm trying to catch.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a mole, and you have to be very careful. The way we handle intelligence in this country is sus. You know something, I'm dying to have a rum with my friend so we can tell him and impress the entire bar what me know. They also forget pillow talk. I think a commentator on one of the YouTube channels call them cursings. Who they tell women things in order to get invited back to their bed because they're not only entertaining physically, but mentally because they have a man who telling win run-ins. And they then tell them real man what's going on. So it's a web. We have got to get to the point where we listen to old-time Jamaican things with seriousness. Not everything good for eat, good for talk.
Yes.
Which is why I am upset about our approach to crime fighting, like it is a publicity stunt. What you call it, hearts and minds fine, but it's a thing where we're trying to do PR. That's not PR. PR is when you get a conviction, and a conviction that lasts for long. That's PR.
Wilfred Rattigan?
Yeah, I look, I agree with everything that Finzi-Smith said. The thing about the crime thing though is that if they would come out and explain to people what exactly they're trying to achieve, they don't have to tell them how they're going to go about it, but just tell them what they're trying to achieve and tell them how the public can help beyond just saying, oh, if you see something, call us. It's more than that because community policing requires more than that. It requires a relationship and trust between the community and the police. And if you don't have a relationship with the community, it's hard for you to just give them a message saying, oh, if you see something, call me and tell me. Given the fact that, the informer for dead mentality is alive and well. No, they come out with this thing now that they're going to give you $50 million. They have $50 million. Prime Minister announced that over the holiday season, he has $50 million to give to the public if you can give him some information. And that in and of itself is just very problematic because it didn't say whether it was for information leading to the arrest and conviction. In fact, we know it couldn't have been for the conviction because he announced it like a few days before Christmas. And he said, if you give us the information, you could get a slice of the pie and have a nice Christmas. No conviction is going to take place arrest and conviction is going to take place in 4 days. We know that. So
how you going to verify the information?
Exactly. So, I really don't know. I really don't know what Jamaica is doing regarding the crime plan and the involvement of communities. I know, for example, like the FBI, they have something called Citizens Academy. And I was an integral part of that when I was a number 2 guy in the office in Mississippi. And what we did was we put on it was 1 day a week for about, I think it was like 8 weeks. 1 day a week, so 8 times we would bring them in. And we developed a relationship with these people. And every division came in and briefed them. Of course, it was an unclassified brief. But you give people a sense that they're involved too. They had a role to play. And I cannot begin. And then we take them on the range. We have the lab people come and tell them how we resolve crime. We have the counterintelligence people. We have the counterterrorism. We have the criminal people, all kinds of stuff. And then at the end, we put on a graduation for them. And I cannot begin to tell you how many of those people called me whenever there was any suspicious activity in their community, because what we developed were ambassadors. They went back and they felt like, go ahead, sir.
Gentlemen.
Point, sorry, has anybody asked whatever happened to the police youth clubs?
That's a very good question, Because I haven't heard anything about the police youth clubs anymore.
Okay. I rest my case.
But,
Yeah,
hold on there for me, Wilfred Rattigan. The question that I really want to ask this morning, though, is the drugs at Ian Fleming's and this seizure here now, combine all of that together. Is it that the DEA is involved in helping Jamaica stem the drug trafficking through Jamaican waters from Colombia through Jamaican waters to America?
Well, you know, it could be, but think about this. This seizure yesterday could have been a DEA-led operation or a DEA-assisted operation. But the one at the Ian Fleming Airport, that's different because that actually entered into Jamaica. And we don't even know if that's just part of a shipment or if that's the entire shipment. I would hazard a guess to say that that's just part of a large shipment. That wasn't a DEA assisted or whatever program, because the DEA, they're more about grabbing the product and grabbing individuals. And,
if it was the DEA, they would have the plane.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said it was the DEA, they would have had the plane.
Exactly. And then you know what? If you go ahead and you ask the JCF, which is, it's kind of sad. If you ask them, did you do forensics on that aircraft? You know, did you do
aircraft now, Wilfred Rattigan?
Huh?
What aircraft are you talking about now?
The one that crash landed.
No, but hold on there. I'm a bit confused. The one that what we're talking about now is the cocaine yesterday.
Right. No. But my brother Finzi-Smith said that the DEA would have probably grabbed the plane as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
Right.
Well, but with this now, it's a boat. Do you think that the Jamaica Defense Force along with the police did some forensic evidence on the boat? If they can get any?
They should. They should.
I hope so.
They should.
I hope so.
And I tell you what, I would love to sit in on the interview. I won't even call it an interrogation. Interview of I believe they caught 3 men. I would be interested in sitting down there. I would love to be a part of that investigative team to sit down and ask these guys the questions, because what we do is
training.
Yeah.
But during my training, I was taught never to ask a question I didn't have the answer to.
All right. So that's why I was going to tell you now that I was going to mention that I'm sure they had telephones with them. So you do a complete forensics on the telephone. You do a complete background on these guys. You do a complete background, not only on them, but their family members as well and their associates. So that when you go inside there, you're going to impress upon them that you know everything that there is to know. So them can't lie to you. Them can't lie to you when you start talking to them. But they'll realize in short order that, you know what? We can't lie to them people. Them know everything. And you're absolutely right. You don't ask questions you don't know the answer to. And like I always tell people, one of the things I learned from the FBI is that you don't ask questions to get an answer. You ask questions to get to the truth. So if you combine that with the fact that you don't ask questions unless you have an answer, when people start telling you the stuff, then you bring, and that's one of the reasons why one of the easiest charges, and you'll hear about this charge all the time, the 1001 charge, lying to a federal agent. That's the easiest charge. Easiest charge. Even when people get off of the substantive charge, they will not get off of that charge if they lie. So.
But actually, I want to show you something now. People accuse me always of going too far down the road. But let me take you down the tunnel now. If I had been the officer in charge of the operation, the first thing I do is get a sample kit and dip in the fuel. I want to know where the fuel come from.
Right.
Formulas in fuel differ, depends on which refinery they went through.
That's true.
So I can ask you where you were, and I know the answer already based on where the fuel come from.
And there's a great possibility that the fuel that they're gonna test on the boat now didn't come from Jamaica.
No.
So does the JCF and the JDF have the capability to find out that?
You don't even need to be the JCF. JCF, I just go to Petra and say, let me one of your technician there. Them have test kits.
You know what? Let me ask you a question, Brother Finzi-Smith. And it's something that every time I listen to you, it crosses my mind, and I've never asked this question. But Jeffrey, please indulge me. Let me just ask him a direct question. Before asking the question, though, the fireman sends his apologies. He was supposed to be on, but due to a prior commitment, he will not be able. So he extends his apologies to the, all the panelists and the host. Yeah. No, Brother Finzi-Smith, here's a question I want to ask you. Given your experience, given your knowledge, given your contacts, given everything that you have achieved in the law enforcement and the military arena, why is it that, or have the government reached out to you and said, listen, we would like you to be a consultant, at least, to our force, so that we can address the crime problem in a more efficient and effective manner? Because you're there, you're on the ground, and you have what it takes. Have they reached out to you for that kind of assistance?
No.
So that begs to ask the question, Wilfred Rattigan and Finzi-Smith. Does the government of Jamaica really want to fight crime?
Let me clarify that. No. Without telling tales out of school, when I was the senior director in charge of safety and security at UTEC, we set up a control room with surveillance that I can stay in Kingston and monitor the campus in Mobile in real time and lock down the campus in less than 30 seconds type of thing. And I, at the time, had spoken to a Minister of National Security and indicated my penchant for cameras and their use. So as a result of that, I believe the original concept of what you call Jamaica Eye came about. I wasn't involved deep in it, but I believe the germ was planted by me and it somehow grew. It was not, I think, carried to where it could have been. Let me put it that way, to be diplomatic, uncharacteristically so. But Bobby Montague, when he became Minister of National Security, somebody seems to have whispered in his ear, who first came up with this thing, Finzi-Smith. He called me and invited me to one of the pre-launch situations, invited me to the launch and asked certain questions, which I, without hesitation, answered truthfully. Ever since his departure, no one has. No one has.
See? Now, Jeffrey, think about it. A man as qualified as Finzi, who lives in Jamaica, who is a Jamaican. He never come, as they say, by airplane. He come to Jamaica.
Come by labor pain.
He come to Jamaica by labor pain, right? And he's there with all of this knowledge, right? And if they refuse to even approach him for assistance, we're not even talking about making him part of the service, part of the force, just to say, hey, we could just pick his brain, we could just sit down with him and talk then, right? If they refuse to do that, then there's no point in asking why haven't they engaged me? Because if he's there, and this man, in my estimation, he's one of the premier law enforcement of individuals in Jamaica. And if they won't even ask him, then forget about it. They're not gonna ask anybody else.
No, but I tell you better than that. I believe that we have taken, for instance, from Britain and America, everything Britain with its camera system, we should have aped that long ago. Britain has a situation where if you drive too badly and them convict you of it, them crush your car. That would solve our bad driving taxi problems and increase our revenue from scrap metal. I have this theory that says Jamaica is the illegitimate child of the United States and Britain, but we have never taken them to family court. The United States have a system, a federal system. You can get clapped for crossing state lines to commit a felony or to evade capture. So I suggested to them in a public lecture I did and in other forums, why don't we don't need new laws in Jamaica. We just need to enforce the ones we have. Say I steal a car and it's 5 years I get, normally. But I stole the car in Montego Bay and I come from Kingston. So I crossed parish boundaries to commit the crime. I must now do 3 times the normal thing for it and spend every single day in jail because I crossed parish boundaries to commit it. If I steal a car in Kingston, from which I'm from, but you catch me in Portland, I cross parish boundaries to evade capture. Same thing occurs. Hearts and minds. I go to a community, I say, oh, Miss Ida, how you do? Everything. You could call me in parish, they up beside you. You hear say, you see this thing, if them catch your grandson, the one we're looking for, if them catch him in your house, we have a law, that's how we can take your house. You know? So what's that? Yes, we can take your house. Next time, check, Granny, open the door now. Say, you tell me out that door there, nobody not texting me. It's simple. You know, we look for complex solutions to simple problems. We don't have to look bright. We just have to be bright. It not take much.
If you're just joining us, this is Make We Talk. We're not in Roots FM this morning because Roots is on holiday, but we have to do the people's business. I'm speaking to Wilfred Rattigan, former FBI agent and attorney at law, and a well-known Jamaican, Robert Finzi-Smith, a security analyst in his own right. And we're speaking about the current drug bust, or drug apprehended at the at sea with the Jamaica Defense Force. The question that we need to ask ourselves in our country, you know, Jamaica don't produce cocaine. Yet drugs are in our waters, and we're spending billions of dollars every year on security and so forth. And I must lift my hat to the government and the Jamaica Defense Force for that, you know, recent seizure. But the question is, how much guns and cocaine still coming in? Finzi-Smith?
Sorry, didn't hear that.
I said the question must be asked is how much drugs and cocaine still coming in?
Yeah, well, I am of the belief it's not even the coming in we need to worry about. We need to worry about the fact that we are being used as a transshipment port. And if you carry something through somewhere, it is almost natural that you leave some behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cocaine, somewhere stay. Not much, but somewhere stay. Even taking as payment for they allowing it to come through. Guns, them not going back to the States. They're stopping here as payment for your having allowed them to be transshipped.
And those payment will go to the people of the Vumvavon, the Vumvavi. I mean, we may ask a question too.
No.
The people of the Vumvavon, the Vumvavi. Wilfred Rattigan?
Well, the Vumvavan, the Vumvavi, meaning the influential people, because I guarantee you that shipment that was interdicted yesterday, nobody from my community or Waterhouse was involved in that, meaning that nobody from my community financed that. Them don't have them kind of money there. What's interesting, based on what Finzi just said, is that even though they're not involved, it's quite likely that some of the left behind cocaine will end up down there, and some of the guns, if guns were shipped in, they'll end up down there. And then guess what? Then those people, the focus is on them. See, the focus is not on the influential people that you mentioned, the ones who are really responsible for financing these deals. Because no poor man, we're poor man I go finance 1 ton of cocaine. No, that's impossible, right? But they'll ask him, but they'll ask him to help load, offload, store, ship, all of those things. They'll hire them to do all of that, and they're the ones who get caught, right?
You know what I think we need? I said it years ago.
Finzi, you're breaking up, Finzi-Smith. Finzi-Smith, you're breaking up. We can hardly hear you.
Your qualification that you have to have a university degree, and you have to have the ability, accounting, forensic accounting capabilities, that type of thing. And you cannot be brought in at anything less than an inspector, which means that any station you go to, you have standing. These people take on certain cases. From it cross a certain boundary, they take on that. They do a cross-reference with the FBI, the MI5, the whole of that. They only give a briefing when it is to be prepared for court. They should have lawyers involved in there too. Lawyers should have the rank of superintendent and above, and they marshal the cases, taking a lot of the weight off of the DPP. Once something crosses into their domain, it's like what happened in the States when they brought in RICO. Nobody want to get indicted under that. What is happening now is that a youngster is running around with an M16 on a frame that is very expensive, and him can't buy a patty. So where get it from? Another youngster buy him driver's license because him needed to drive the Range Rover, him just buy cash, but he has no discernible sign of income. This marshal service would also have to direct links with the tax department. When they come after you, it's worse than if you're committing murder. And if you're not making money, crime don't make sense. So go after the money. Make it almost stupid to show that you have money in this country unless you can verify where it comes from. You know how we used to when a shipment goes and when that department in that area sell out, we say that shipment just gone. We can't help ourselves. We're consumers.
But Finzi-Smith, the same way Wilfred Rattigan asked you the question if the government of Jamaica ever reach out to you. I'm trying to figure out something here. South Africa has 54 million people. Isn't that so, Wilfred Rattigan? And Jamaica have and Jamaica have 3-point-something million. We have 10,000 policies and South Africa have 100 and something thousand. Have they ever reached out to their South African counterpart, sit down and have some discussion with them? Or was it? Is it that we are too black? I'm not going to put racism in this thing, but I mean, they don't speak to you. They don't reach out to their counterparts. You only hear the Minister of National Insecurity and Justice, Twiddly Dum Dum, fly to St. Lucia. When St. Lucia got talk about, we don't know. I don't hear anything about it. And the crime is getting out of hand. Guns coming in, that coming in, this coming in. We are faced with a fundamental problem in this country. The criminals are becoming a clear and present danger to the national security of the people of this country.
But I'm not going to criticize him for going to St. Lucia because I don't know what that was for or what it obtained. Or what St. Lucia has to do with our situation here or what we have to do with theirs. What I will say to you is this. If I were the Minister of National Security, part of my weekly procedures would be a sit down either in my office or up Hope Road with the United States Embassy for a weekly briefing. After that, maybe once a month, I fly out for high-level talks without anybody knowing to the United States and discuss with the various agencies how they can assist with information and computer sharing in terms of we send out, I need a trace on this person, I need a trace on that person. We have gotten this weapon. Could you run these serial numbers for me? Find out which Jamaican bought it at which place to find out who it linked to down here. That kind of thing. But when last, for instance, have you heard that the Minister of National Security went to the United States?
Because he can't go. He can't fly. Hold on there, Willie. He can't fly go nowhere. So,
I don't know.
The Prime Minister, who's the Minister of Prime Security, have to be flying here, there, and everywhere. And the PM don't have the balls to come out and say, I fire you.
You know old-time calypso music?
Which one?
Remember who used to watch you die?
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
I want to tell you a quick story. When I was a subaltern in the 70s, there was a state of emergency, and then at some time there was a police-soldier war. In order to try and quell it, they would put young subalterns out on duty up at police headquarters in the radio room, and on certain patrols we'd go out with the police so that soldiers wouldn't feel that them is prime target. I was sitting in the control room one night, and a call came in, Hope Pastures. And a car was called and told to report to the address that the call came from. It's all right, sir. 15 minutes later, the call came again. And the man called him and said, where are you? It's en route. It's all right. 10 minutes later, person called back. And man said, where you coming from? Where are you? What the person that's called almost 3 times. What is the situation? I must remember, in a patrol car, the highest rank on a normal thing is would say a sergeant. Yes?
Uh-huh.
And the person who is in charge of the control room that night was an inspector. And whoever was in charge of the patrol car, I'll never forget this transmission. It has stuck with me. Yo. You're trying to pressure me here. You try to remember where me and you come from.
What?
That spoke mirrors to me. People don't pressure people if people have secrets for them.
Robert Finzi-Smith, hold on a minute for me. I know Wilfred Rattigan have to go off at 12 o'clock. So
yeah, let me just say that.
He's fine out before he goes.
Yeah, let me just say that, you know, the suggestion put forward by Finzi when he said that if he were the Minister of National Security, these are the things he would have done. I would do those things, and those things are perfectly in order. But see, we have people in Jamaica who are not involved in this profession, the law enforcement profession, and they're the ones responsible for making decisions. And it's sad because when you have somebody like a Finzi-Smith out there, he forget about me and forget about the people overseas. Like I said before, you have qualified people in Jamaica. It's just that they're not being utilized for whatever reason. But he should have been. And I hope that they're listening to this program and they'll take my advice to heart and say, look, you don't have to reach out to the people in the diaspora because you have people there. The reason why the diaspora is reaching out to you is because we see where you're making mistakes. But you have people there. Employ them, use them, and then you won't have to worry about us. The other thing is that, you know, it's interesting because the JCF and the people within the Ministry of National Security, they want to reach out to, you know, so-called first world countries, UK, Canada, and the UK, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what they have to realize is that for the most part, those first world countries don't have a third world problem.
It's 12 o'clock.
Like what Jamaica have, you know, like the rising violence. They don't have that. So that's why it would make sense for them to keep on reaching out to the first world countries, but reach out to a place like South Africa because the problems are similar. And the South Africans are doing a lot of things to address the issues. And thankfully for a program like yours, Jeffrey, you'll have on the Interpol ambassador. I know you didn't mention it and I don't want to steal your thunder, but he's scheduled to come on next week with the Interpol ambassador to South Africa. And he's going to talk about the things that he's going to talk about the crime environment in South Africa, which is very similar to Jamaica. And in fact, the analysts can actually learn because there are things going on in South Africa that haven't reached Jamaica yet, as far as the criminals putting these things into place. So they can actually learn.
Cape Town.
Yeah, they can learn emerging threats, they call them in intelligence world. They can learn about that. And then they can also learn about what these guys are doing to address some of the issues and establish a sister relationship with the South African Police Service. They're 100,000 strong, somewhere between 90 and 100,000 strong. And they would love to help out and assist a country like Jamaica. So I'm saying continue with the relationship. Well, they have no choice. They have to continue with the relationship with the first world countries. But at the same time, look around the world and look at countries that have a similar problem like yours. And so what are they doing to address their problems? Because if you can't learn from them, maybe they can learn from you, right? And it's one of those experiences where, you know, you give them something now and you might get something from them 5 years from now. So it's all about assistance and establishing relationships. So I wish they'd take the advice and listen, but deep down in my gut, I'm saying nah, because these people are so arrogant, they're so self-absorbed that and they're so reluctant to accept assistance from the outside or to reach out and bring people in. That it's only going to get
almost double the police force with no money.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you how to almost double the police force strength with no money.
Go ahead, please.
Everybody want a gun.
Do what?
Part of the procedure, apart from the normal investigations.
Yeah.
We enroll you in what is called the police, I don't know what terminology, police reserve.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the district constable course. You have to be trained in law in the district constable course, and you have to be trained as you need to be properly to use a weapon. We have over a whole heap of thousands of people carrying guns in Jamaica legally. Make everyone about district constable, which means that they not only can defend themselves, but they can intervene as a police officer. And you don't know who they are until it's too late.
Well, not the only, but one of the drawbacks I see with that is legal liability. Like, for example, if there is a bad shooting, will the government stand in their stead? Will the government, when people sue them, will they also sue the government? That's one of the things, and that it goes back to training, and it goes back to how much the government is willing to pay. to say that, hey,
increase the police force where you become a full-time member. It's the same thing. And we sue them too.
yeah, but here's the thing. Those are full-time members. These are people that you're saying, look, they already have a permit, a legal permit to carry. And so let's utilize them. Let's utilize them. And so, you know, now if you use, because now you're doubling the force. So you're probably going to double the problem.
Yeah.
So the question is, some of the money that they have that they haven't spent, or the money that's been siphoned off elsewhere, maybe they should put that money in a fund and say, okay, you know what, this is to cover any legal liability we might incur as a result of a bad shooting.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you.
And then you also train people with.
Hold on a minute. Wilfred, put on your camera. People ask to see you.
Say that again?
No, it's talking to me.
Put on the camera, Mr. Rattigan.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Go ahead now, Mr. Smith.
You can see me now?
I'm just saying the thing is this. You can train people to be drone operators. They increase a place where you just have a control room where they operate the drones. Do you know a very simple thing that I saw in Trinidad? I think it might still be up there. Have you seen the blimp in Port of Spain?
The what?
No, I haven't.
Blimp.
No.
There is a blimp above Port of Spain that is filled with cameras. It just hovers over Port of Spain and watches the entire place from cameras. It's been there for years.
So why is it, Finzi-Smith, that the government of Jamaica is afraid to pump billions of dollars or millions of dollars, the same 50 million that the Prime Minister speak about, that he wants to give away for Christmas for people taking about guns? Why don't they invest that $50 million in cameras over the entire city?
Thank you so much. Finally, somebody else. Thank you.
The time that the PM they're talking about Radam. You Radam the money. Where it's supposed to go. And stop talking about this damn Radam.
You know
that makes no
what,
damn
you know what, in my
Radam,
humble opinion. No, please don't take this the wrong way. But you see that type of approach, unfortunately, it is geared toward a populist type situation. Yeah? My roots, rather. You know the difficulty and the danger with that? Let us say go to a stage show and somebody puts on a hell of a good show. And you sit there and them run out a tune. And them start to improvise. You start to get the slow hand clap. Then people start pointing to the parking lot. You have to remember Shandy Buckle.
Yes, man.
People shandy you. People must be careful that you don't overstay your time on stage. And the only time you don't find yourself in danger of doing that is if you keep coming with a hit song. What has been, in terms of crime and its suppression, what has been the hit song?
Hold a while for me, Finzi-Smith.
Yeah. Well, let me just say before I go.
Have to go.
Yeah,
because what we're going to do also, Wilfred Rattigan, is that this evening at 7 o'clock, we'll come back here again to speak some more about it.
All right, I'll be available.
So,
just to add to what Finzi said, you know, there's a popular saying here that never overstay your welcome, or you'll never be welcome to stay over. All right, I'll leave it with that.
All right.
Finzi later. Jeffrey, we talk.
Yes, thank you very much, Wilfred Rattigan.
We'll talk and make we talk.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Wilfred Rattigan, a former FBI agent and attorney at law. We're still here with Finzi-Smith. We're going to go until about 12:15, then we come off and come back here at 7 o'clock this evening. So, Smith.
Yes, sir.
You spoke about the, is it any way you can put on your camera?
As long, let me go put on a shirt so I don't offend your viewers.
We're speaking to Finzi-Smith, security analyst, what is going on in Jamaica, the recent drug bust by the Jamaica Defense Force. And we must say kudos to them because, you know, at least, you know, we stopped that from going on the road in Jamaica. And other things may have happened pertaining to that drugs being on the road. We must say thank God for that. Jamaica is at a critical point in our lives that we need to get outside assistance. And if I can reach out to the ambassador who's going to come on my program next week, Tuesday, on Route 96.1 FM, to speak about what they're doing in South Africa to assist. I'm also going to have the Minister of National Security for South Africa to come on the other week, Tuesday, to speak about what is going on. Why is it that the Jamaican government can't reach out to the South African counterparts and say, hey, what are you doing to assist with your crime situation in South Africa? Why is it that I am a little Jamaican who don't know nobody, but I can reach out to people and get them to come on to speak about what is going on, to see what they can do to assist in alleviating Jamaica's crime pandemic? And you have a prime minister and a minister of national security. I don't know, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Why can't we reach out to the Jamaican ambassador in South Africa to see if we can get the Minister of National Security in South Africa to speak some more? Why is it the Minister of National Security can't travel to South Africa, can't travel to somewhere to sit down and speak about crime, what they're doing in their country to alleviate crime? What on earth is going on in our country, Finzi-Smith?
Well, as you said that, your current Commissioner of Police was the National Security Advisor. A great deal of verification and saying that this is needed and justification for it.
Continue.
Was done. And he since became the police commissioner. The post hasn't been filled. So the question is, if it was that important as was outlined, why hasn't it been filled? He becoming the minister of, or the commissioner of police has left that post vacant. Has it been filled and we're not told about it? Or is it going to be filled? Because now what you're saying is that the person who used to tell you what to do as national security advisor is overseeing himself as the commissioner of police. It's a conflict of interest, something that seems to be the theme across the board. The other thing is, do some research. Vernon Field. Find out what is the legal status of Vernon Field as regards United States ownership. Do you know that Vernon Field is the United States Air Base?
Still owned by the United States?
I am told, I don't know if they turned it back over to us. It was built by the United States for their aircraft in World War II. There are bunkers on the Vernon Field. Vernon Field is the thickest that I know of runway construction, thick. So now, if the United States still have some interest in it, why don't we talk to them and say, come put down 2 or 3 of the, what they call them, Black Hawk helicopters, and make them help us with coastal patrol from that position. Considering their thought process with Cuba, they would love to sit down there.
But
have some in Jamaica.
I am losing you, Finzi-Smith. You're breaking up. Your signal is breaking up with us.
Such our system and not much else. It run through the. You know what we use it for now? Drag racing. Drag racing.
So why is it that's what you're saying? We don't have enough time leave. So we're going to come back here at 7 o'clock this evening to speak some more about it. I hope you can join us back at 7 o'clock, Finzi-Smith.
I'll do my best.
Yes. what you're saying now, why is that the Jamaican government don't approach the American government? Because they are the sole full owner of Vernon Field.
They may still very well be. I may be wrong, but that was my understanding.
Because if they can speak to them and say, listen to me, bring some about 4 to 5 Blackout helicopters down here. It will assist America same way too.
Yes. I help us stop the drug running and the cocaine running.
And the gun running and every running.
And if anybody gets up and start some big chase with a car and everything, and a Blackout helicopter jump up out of Verna. Hello?
We need to do something. Finzi-Smith, Robert Finzi-Smith, security analyst. We'll be back here at 7 o'clock this evening to dig deeper. Can Vernon Field, or is the American government still own Vernon Field? Can Vernon Field become a help in solving Jamaica's crime and drugs problem?
Mike Henry wanted it to become a transportation hub. And it's a great idea. Why it never came about makes you wonder if there's some legal challenge in terms of America's ownership of it.
We have to do some research for tonight, Finzi-Smith. This is where we're going to say so long from the Make We Talk program here on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Finzi-Smith, your final word before we go.
If it feels wrong, it's wrong. No amount of explanation, no amount of dithering will change it. Once upon a time, we've always had thieves, but they used to hide and thief. Now, they perform it with what I call a D-angel attitude. Them thief, and you say you thief, and them say, answer. They don't care anymore. We need to make some people understand that perhaps the building of a prison out of Goat Island or so could be their next accommodation.
For some people of the Vumvava and the Vumvavi, until you hear us again at 7 o'clock this evening on the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel, join Finzi-Smith, Wilfred Rattigan, Conrad O'Brien, and yours truly, Jeffrey Tavares, this evening at 7 o'clock when we dig deeper. Is Vernon Field still owned by the American government? And if so, can Vernon Field become the next air base for America, where America can assist Jamaica in fighting the crime and drugs pandemic we face in Jamaica and throughout the region? And also, join me next week, Tuesday, live on Route 96.1 FM, where I'll be speaking to the ambassador of Interpol. He will be on my program. And the other week, Tuesday, I'm going to have the South African Minister of National Security to come on to speak about the security problem in South Africa and what can Jamaica learn from South Africa and what can South Africa learn from Jamaica. So join me next week, Tuesday, the 3rd of January, 2023. I'll be having the ambassador of Interpol on my program from 10 o'clock until 12 midday. This is where I say so long from here on the behalf of my producer for this program, Owen Brown, my co-host, Wilfred Rattigan, our guest, Finzi-Smith. I am Jeffrey Tavares saying thank you all for coming on. Like, share, and subscribe, and join us back here at 7 o'clock this evening. Finzi-Smith, thank you very much, my friend.
Blessed, myself.
Thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.